up, and now all you have to do is hit the arrow and give you whatever book, and that'll be
Great. Thank you, Rick.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. We're going to get started. I'm Keith Daw, Diocese of Florida, and I'm going to hand off to Father Justin to pray us in, and Mother Sarah Minton to welcome you.
As Keith said, I'm Father Justin. I'm the rector at St. Francis in the Field in Nocatee, Ponte Vedra. It's good to be with you all tonight. The Lord be with you.
And also
with you. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, just draw near to our hearts and our minds as we gather for this pre-convention meeting, as we look with excitement and joy at all the work that lay ahead of us, all the work that's been accomplished, and all the things we do to be your hands and feet in the world. Bless our time and our conversation, and just inspire our hearts to follow your call in our life in the Diocese of Florida. We ask all your most holy and blessed name. Amen. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mother Sarah.
thank you. Well, hey, y'all, and those of you who are watching online, I'm guessing there are a gazillion people watching online right now. And if there's not, that's okay too. But hey, everybody, my name is Sarah Minton. I am the rector at St. Mary's in Green Cove Springs, and I'm happy to be here to welcome all of you who are in person and all of you who are online. Thank you for tuning in. Just a little word to say that we're so glad that you're here, that you care about our diocese, you care about the governance of our church, you care about one another, and another note to say that we don't have all the answers, and so things will be presented tonight, and if we know the answer, we'll give you the answer. If we don't know the answer, we'll say, we'll get back to you on that. So thanks for being here. That's it.
All right, Father Justin, you can actually turn that one off. Hello again, Keith Daw from the Diocesan Office. I'm going to first talk to you a little bit about what we're doing tonight. And as Mother Sarah was saying, this is a time, these 4 pre-convention meetings are times for us in preparing your convention for you to make sure that we get the feedback from you in preparing so that we know how to make the convention the absolute best it can be for all of you and for the diocese, for all of us in the diocese. So there's about 5 things we're going to do tonight, including adjourning, but 4 things we're going to do tonight. One of them is we're going to go over the general framework of the convention agenda. I'm going to do that with you in just a moment. And then Rhonda, Drackett-Williams of the Resolutions Committee is going to come and just walk you through broadly the 4 resolutions. I apologize to you in advance. I just learned right before we went live that the QR codes on some of the resolutions have expired, but this whole presentation is going to be continually updated on the Diocesan Convention website. So you can go to the Diocesan Convention website, see this exact presentation deck, as the PR types call it, and you can also access the resolutions directly there. So apologies that tonight the QR codes may not work for us, but we're getting those updated, and they'll be live tomorrow on the convention website of the diocese. So we're going to go over the agenda. Rhonda's going to walk us through the resolutions. Father Matt Marino is going to come and walk us through the nominations. I'm going to give you a little bit of a preview of the financial information that's going to be discussed at convention. Unfortunately, one of the joys of having the first pre-convention meeting immediately after a large holiday is that I don't have all of the data. We don't have all the data yet in the presentation tonight. There'll be more as the additional pre-convention meetings roll out over the next 3. There's this coming Thursday, next Tuesday, and the following Thursday. So there'll be more financial information going live on the website in the updated presentation deck. But I'm going to talk to you about what you're going to hear. And we're going to get your feedback. We want this to be interactive. So if you have a question, just raise your hand. We do have a live mic. And we'd love to capture your question electronically. So if Mother Sarah's got the mic, and if you have a question, please just come up here to the front, and Mother Sarah will hand you the mic, and we'll make sure it's on so we can capture your question. Because again, the pre-convention meetings are about making convention better for all of us. So, next slide, please. So the annual convention, as I hope you've gotten the word, starts on Friday night with an opening Eucharist. We hope that Eucharist is going to be in Mandy's, but in a way we hope it won't be, because we hope so many of you are going to be there that we out-capacity Mandy's. And one of the reasons we hope you will be there not only to help open convention, but also to enjoy what we consider a festive dinner at Camp Weed on Friday night to really kick off a year of celebrating Camp Weed's 100th anniversary. Camp Weed was founded in 1924 here actually in the Jacksonville area and on the First Coast, and we want to celebrate that, and then over the next 12 months we'll be rolling out a lot of really neat opportunities to participate in that celebration. One that I'd love to highlight to you is the African-American author Pat Hines, who is a descendant of a Suwannee County family. They weren't Episcopalians, but they have a really fascinating story. Her great-great-grandfather was a freed, enslaved person who, after the Civil War, moved to Suwannee County and homesteaded property, some of which is still in her family. His given name was Christmas. And so she's written a really fascinating book called Christmas in the South. One of the things we're going to be doing during the year celebrating Camp Weed, I believe it's in October, is to have a special weekend where she is our presenter, and we celebrate that as part of not only Camp Weed's 100th anniversary, but the diocese's racial reconciliation efforts. So that'll be a really wonderful event. So anyway, so we'll kick off the 100th anniversary of Camp Weed. We'll have a great time together. And then we'll depart. And the next morning, next slide, please. Thank you. Next morning, we'll start with a continental breakfast. It'll be early because we've got a lot to do that day. And we'll be publishing the exact time, so be watching for that, please. But we'll start off with a continental breakfast. We'll check in all the delegates, both lay and clergy. We're working to make that a very efficient process. Those delegates will receive their voting equipment, because this year we're going to be using electronic voting with a handheld dedicated voting device. And then, so that process is going to take time, so we got to start early to kick off. Then we'll have some time with the wonderful Bishop Mary Gray Reeves, who's been leading our convocations. She'll both lead morning prayer and then have some time with us. And then we'll call the business meeting to order when that finishes. You'll see that we'll do some of the traditional things we do in convention. We'll do introductions, privileges. We'll have a report from the standing committee, and then we'll do elections. And as I mentioned, we'll be using electronic voting. So one of the joys of last November's convention, when we were constantly waiting for the tallying of paper ballots, will not be happening. You will actually see the voting presented to you on screens live as it happens. I think we had to do that not only for all of our sanity as delegates and representatives, because otherwise we might have had a mass walkout at the diocesan office, because those folks, both the staff and the volunteers who were in that back room counting all of those paper ballots would probably revolt if we did that again. Then we'll have lunch. It'll be a box lunch there at Camp Weed. We'll have some special resolutions immediately before lunch. That's just a teaser. You'll have to come or watch later to see what those are. We'll have some financial reports. We'll have resolutions. We'll have some reports from diocesan committee. There will be closing remarks. We'll pray and we will depart. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Rhonda Drackett-Williams, who's just going to walk you through the 6 resolutions that have been presented so far for convention. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am from St. Paul's, Federal Point. I also am a member of the Diocesan Council, and this year is actually my 2nd term working with the Resolutions Committee. And while I thought we worked hard last time and we couldn't work any harder, we did. We worked just as hard. It was a larger group of us working on the resolutions, and there was a lot of thoughtful discussion and a lot of input, and so I think we've come up with a lot of really good resolutions for us to share. So we'll go through them quickly. Resolution 1 is brought forward from last year's convention. Resolutions 2 through 5 result from the work of 2024 Convention Committee on Charter and Canons. Resolution 6 was submitted through the diocesan call for resolution process. So again, as Keith shared, you can see all of the details of these on the website and with the QR code when those are back operational again. Next slide. We will dive a little bit deeper on the resolution. So Resolution 1, the amendment to the Diocese Articles of Reincorporation, or the Charter, that was approved at the 180th Convention in November of 2023, and it requires a second hearing and a vote at this coming 181st Convention in order for it to be effective. The proposed Resolution 2, amendment of diocesan canons to allow participation in diocese conventions by other means of communication besides physical presence, and to include the Florida statutes as among the reference materials applicable to the diocese as a corporate entity. Resolution 3, amendment of Diocesan Canon 12 that clarifies the process of the sale of diocesan property, redefines the Finance and Investment Committee's roles in diocesan property disposition and diocesan and parish borrowing, and clarifies the process by which the diocese executes legal documents. Resolution 4, amendment of various canons to clarify and update canon language. Resolution 5, amendment of Diocesan Canon 1 to provide an update to which clergy are delegates to diocesan conventions, using and defining in canon the concept of cure and clarifying which clergy are delegates. It provides for canonically resident clergy without cure to have the access to vote by registering. And Resolution 6, amendment submitted pursuant to the diocesan rules of order relating to scheduling a process to elect a diocesan bishop. And those are our resolutions. Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions about any of those? I was the scribe to the committee, so I can help Rhonda with any questions that anyone in the audience might have. The Charter and Canons Committee also expects to, sorry, thank you, I'll get near the mic.
Yes.
Rick's reminding me I'm not near the mic, thank you. The Charter and Canons Committee will hopefully also in the next few days be publishing a report on their work. They were delayed by some of the end of the summer vacations and out of towns and that sort of thing, but they've just about finalized their report, and I hope that we'll be releasing it very soon and well before convention. They worked very hard. As Rhonda alluded to, we had a really great representation from both clergy and lay and all regions of the diocese, which was really great. And I can tell you as their scribe, because I wasn't technically their member, they did a great work. So thank you so much. And again, if you have any questions, please let us know. You're always welcome to email me, and I'll get the question to the right committee. And now we're going to ask Father Matt Marino to come and walk us through the nominations.
Hello, and thank you, everyone. I think the process of this evening is from lesser to greater. We start off with rules and regulations. We go on to people. We get to end with the money. So, yeah, just stay at your keyboard over there. Give us a little just as I am. Okay, so we had a nominating process that went the way nominating processes go. We send out an email that says, here are the various positions that are open for the next 3 years. And if you would like to put your name in, feel free to do that. And that email goes out and people turn in their names. When they turn in their names, we say, okay, if you're really serious about this, we'd love to have you put in your name for it. We need a bio and a headshot. Those all come in, and then they get bundled up and they go out to everybody, and then we show up and we vote on them all. So here they are. There are a couple people running for a couple of openings for diocesan council. There's a lay person open for First Coast West on a 3-year term. There's a lay person open for Santa Fe on a 3-year term. There's a clergy spot that's sort of not regional on a 3-year term. That actually replaces me. Thank you for those of you who put in your name to run. Disciplinary board, that's 2 clergy and 1 lay on a 3-year term. That's mostly, I'm told no one's ever called that on that group for like a decade. So it's either the least amount of work or the worst job in the diocese, depending on what happens. So there you go. Standing committee, 1 clergy, 1 lay for a 3-year term, and then 1 lay person for the Swanee Board of Trustees. To be elected, next slide, please. So running for clergy, there's the Reverend Charlie Erkman from Crescent City in the River Region. There's the Reverend Charlie Holt from St. Mark's in First Coast West. There's Reverend Annette Sines from St. Peter's Fernandina, First Coast East. And there's Michael Snyder from St. Joseph's Newberry in the Santa Fe region. 3 terrific priests, and they are running for 1 spot. So you guys will have to figure out who to vote for on that one. That one's tough. Okay, then diocesan council, the lay people, there are 2 folks running in each of the First Coast West and the Santa Fe region. And so that one, there's a little bit of a horse race, but not nearly as much. There's 2 running for each instead of 4. And you can see their photos and bios in the materials on the website. The disciplinary board, there are 2 clergy to be elected, and unfortunately, there are only 2 of us running, so I'm fairly certain the 2 of us are shoo-ins on that one. And there's a very old photograph of myself. Then on the disciplinary board, on the lay term, there's 1 person to be elected and 2 people running. Janelle Flynn from Jacksonville, First Coast East, and Judy Shipman from Tallahassee, Appalachia region. So really, we tried to get people from across the diocese and to have wide representation. And then their photos are on there too. And then we go to standing committee, which is, that one also has some people running for it. 3 clergy, Reverend Javon Seaborn from St. Gabriel's in Jacksonville. He's First Coast West. Keith Oglesby from St. Philip's, Jacksonville, who was at Christ Church, and he's also First Coast West. And then Reverend Bob Goolsby, our esteemed host tonight. So he is also running from River Region. And by the way, thank you to the people here at St. Thomas for putting us up tonight. This is a great place to get to come and do this. And then standing committee lay folks. There are 5 people running for 1 spot, so I don't know how you're going to decide between them all. It's hard to do paper, rock, scissors with 5, so you'll have to read bios and make hard decisions. Bob Hood in the River Region, John Curington in the River Region, Warren Jackson in the River Region, Paul Van Brunt in First Coast East, and Gary Bragg in First Coast East. So that's a lot of, everybody for that one is from 2 places. Who knew?
Actually, there's a correction. No, that's right. Never mind.
Okay, there is a correction or there is not?
There's not a correction.
Okay, I've been corrected, there won't be a correction.
Excellent.
Swanee Board of Trustees, there are 2 to be elected, there are 2 running for 1 spot. That's Cortland Irick from St. Mark's in Jacksonville and Pam Anderson from St. John's in Tallahassee. I've been to both those churches and they're lovely, and the people from there I'm sure are as well. Financial update, now the part you've all been waiting for. Keith Daw, come on down. Tell us what we've won.
Something for the treasurer. Yes, and would you go back, please? You want me to push forward? If you'd like to click, you are welcome to click, but give me back my notebook.
Right here. Taking away your notes.
Don't be taking away the notes. Not to worry. So, the financial update. And again, there are pieces and parts here that I'm going to describe broadly, and there will be more and more information rolling out as we get closer and closer to convention. And Father Matt, you're going to have to click twice on this slide. The good news is that at this moment we have finished 4 recent audits, including 2 that were finished this year, thanks to putting a lot of steam into it and a lot of resources into it. Those were 2020 and 2021. And we're working already on the 2022 audit and will immediately roll into the 2023 audit. The good news from all of that work is that all of the audits show that the finances of the diocese are completely as they should be, that the reporting is accurate, the recording is accurate, and the auditors found no issues of concern. As our treasurer calls it, there's some intramural things where one accountant says, oh, but you should have characterized it as that, and the other accountant says, oh, but I characterized it as this, and the other accountant says, but I'm the auditor, I win. So we've had to do a little bit of recharacterization, and that's all described in the audit reports, which if you're either a lover of numbers or having difficulty sleeping, are available for you on the website to review at your leisure. And again, if you have any questions about any of that, please feel free to email me and I will get that information to the right person. And one of the things I'll do tonight as we conclude is give you my email address so you can find me to send me any questions. Next slide, please. Another thing that will be presented to you at convention is about the 23 and 24 financials. The reason that we'll be presenting financials this year is because we're in a point where we're not yet into the budget cycle. Last year in November, we were far enough along in the budget cycle, even though it was not yet completely approved. It was approved in December, right after convention, that we can't even present the 2025 budget yet because it hasn't been formulated. So that's one of the issues about having a fall convention, is that we're at a point where we can look back and give you information about the 23 year, and we can give you year to date on 2024, which we will be doing at convention, and hopefully again with more information in some of the following pre-convention meetings, again, which will be updated on the website. So as you prepare for convention, or if you have an interest in it, if you're not a delegate but you're a person who's interested and you want to communicate with your delegates, either from your clergy delegates or your lay delegates from your particular congregation, just be watching for more and more information coming on the website. But that's what we'll be doing this year, is we'll give you a report on the 2023 financials, which show the year closed for 2023, and then we'll show you year to date. I think because of the timing of convention, we'll be able at least to give you the year through July 31st. I can't remember definitely as to whether or not we're going to try to accomplish giving you year-to-date through August 30th. That's a little tight for a September 21st business meeting, but we're going to do the most we can to give you year-to-date on how we're performing against the budget. So that will be the next thing in there. Next slide, please. And then one thing that we wanted to do this year, when I say we, I mean the diocesan leadership, the standing committee, and the diocesan council and the staff, we wanted to give more information about a couple of subject matters that have become questions within the diocese, and we want there to be complete transparency and complete clarity about them. So one of the things we're going to do is the treasurer is going to talk to you about two funds. If you want to compare this to our own domestic individual budgeting and financial approaches, these are our savings accounts. These are our put away money for a rainy day accounts. And there are two that belong to the diocese. One, I think the easiest way to refer to it, it gets referred to as several different ways, but I think the easiest way to refer to it is the endowment, and the other is the Nehemiah Fund. The endowment, and I do have numbers on that, so forgive me just a minute while I flip in my handy page here. The endowment currently has just over $4.1 million in it. And the endowment is comprised mostly of unrestricted funds, but there are some restricted funds in there. An endowment, as the word indicates, and as you might conclude, the endowment is comprised of monies that have been given to the diocese, directly to the diocese, and put away in accounts for the use of the diocese, again, in the case of a need. And those monies, as I say, are restricted and unrestricted. For example, there's a fund within the endowment for the benefit of Curcio. And there was a lady who passed away and left a chunk of funds to the diocese for the benefit of Curcio, and those funds are in the endowment. There's also the Nehemiah Fund. As the diocese has sold properties, some congregations that were closed, or just property that was never developed, those funds have gone for probably about the last, I would guess, 15 to 20 years, because it kind of began probably about 15-ish years ago, I guess. The bishop created a separate fund that is purposed, and one of the purposes of the main purpose of that fund, which he nicknamed the Nehemiah Fund, was to invest in congregations. So, for example, if we planted a new church, funds might come out of proceeds from other property sale, specifically to help with the planning of a church. If a church had a loss or had a renovation or a repair that it needed to make, but it didn't have sufficient funds to do it itself, then the church might apply for a Nehemiah funding. And typically, Nehemiah fundings have been done looking at the kind of the overall mix of the funding request, with a participation expected from the requesting congregation, a grant to the requesting congregation, and then a loan to the requesting congregation. So you can kind of think of them as Nehemiah fundings generally in that way, where a portion is a grant, a portion is demonstrated by the congregation to have been collected itself, and then a congregation is a loan. A portion is a loan. So there have been times also that a congregation has already done its fundraising, and it needs, or it has its own maintenance fund created and established and maintained. And so instead of the funding being all grant and some loan, or I'm sorry, some grant and some loan. It might be all grant because the congregation has already demonstrated that it's most of the way to meeting its own needs. So again, Nehemiah funds, fundings are made out of a fund that the diocese has maintained from the sale of either closed congregations or property that's never been developed. And again, I have a number for you just to give you a sense of what the pocket of money is. The Nehemiah Fund currently is at just over $3 million. That's including some recent fundings that the Standing Committee and Diocesan Council have approved this last calendar year, or since convention actually. So the Nehemiah Fund sits at $3,069,000. The endowments, as I described earlier, sits at $4,138,000. So again, as you see, the diocese in its own pockets has these two funds, the one that's set aside, kind of the rainy day fund, and one you can think of as a reinvestment fund, where it's almost exclusively, to my understanding and information, it's almost exclusively funding out of historic property sales. Next slide, please, sir. Then the other thing that we wanted to make you aware of is that there is another company, thinking about it organizationally or really legally, there's another existing corporation called the Episcopal Foundation. And it exists. I actually decided to do something geeky. I'm a recovering lawyer, as some of you may know, and I decided to do something geeky and talk to you about its three existing purposes. Its existing purposes for the diocese include specifically the education, care, and maintenance of seminarians, the acquisition of real estate for church purposes, the maintenance, expansion, and improvement of Camp Weed and Cerveny Conference Center of the Episcopal Diocese of Florida. So the foundation exists as a separate entity for the benefit of the diocese and specifically for those three purposes. The foundation dates back roughly about 32 years. It was activated under Bishop Jecko, or maybe even late under Bishop Cerveny, but I know it was under Bishop Jecko that it worked along for a while, and then it kind of went dormant. And then in 2012, Bishop Howard reactivated it and approached a number of donors with a vision of some work that he wanted to do in the diocese. And he asked those donors both to contribute and also to participate on the foundation board. And a lot of those same folks who were invited by the bishop both to donate and to participate on the board still serve on the board. And at convention, the president of the foundation, John Baker, will come and talk to us about the foundation. He'll share a little bit of the history that I just shared about how it existed from the early 90s, kind of went dormant. About 2012, Bishop Howard reactivated it. And he shared with me, interestingly, not too long ago when he was getting ready, when we were talking about his presentation, he said, you know, Keith, it's actually kind of interesting that we still have funds in the foundation because one of the bishop's goals when he reactivated it was to spend all the money on diocesan work before he retired. And again, I've got a number for you, for those of you like me who like numbers. In the foundation right now is just under $3 million, $2,913,000 that exists in the foundation. And it's important to know about the foundation that one of the things that they've been asked to do in recent years, because again, a lot of the board members are very experienced business people. They were asked by Bishop Howard to kind of look over his shoulder at the Nehemiah and endowment funds. They don't manage. This is one thing that's been misunderstood in the diocese, so I want to hit it on the head right now. The foundation does not administer the Nehemiah or the endowment funds. Those are diocesan property and they're administered by the diocese. The foundation does administer its funds, and has done quite a bit specifically for Camp Weed just over the last fiscal year or calendar year to help keep Camp Weed continue to exist. So a wonderful group of people who again answered a call to be generous with what they had and have managed that money, particularly since Bishop Howard retired, very directly themselves. So I know I went through a lot of financial information there. Before we move on to saying farewell, are there any questions about any of those finances that I shared with you? Again, more information is going to be rolling out. Y'all are very kind to come the day after Labor Day, so unfortunately there was less in your hands or on your screens than probably some of our friends who will be with us Thursday and next week. But I wanted to at least describe to you what you'll be seeing both in the other pre-convention meetings and at convention in the way of financial information. So again, does anybody have any questions about any of what I just shared about finances? I must have stunned you into silence or sleep one. With that, we'll conclude. Again, we thank the wonderful folks from St. Thomas for hosting us tonight. They've been just marvelous to work with. And again, all of this information is going to be available to you on the website. And if you need anything related to convention, I may not be the person to get you the ultimate information, but I'll make sure you get it. And my email address is very easy. That's one of the benefits of having a 3-letter last name. My email address is KD, Kappa Delta, AW, Apple Wilco, KDAW, at diocesefl.org. So if you need anything as you prepare for convention or as the diocese prepares for convention, I hope you'll email me and I'll make sure you get that information. Thank you all so much for coming.